Have you ever just looked at the world and felt like humanity is, well, a beautiful, complicated mess? There's this one powerful idea that just nails this feeling. It basically says our imperfections aren't a bug, they're a feature. It's the very stuff we're made of. So let's dive into it.
Out of the crooked timber of humanity, no straight thing was ever made. Just let that sink in for a second. It sounds a little bit pessimistic, but also deeply, deeply true, doesn't it? This idea, which goes way back to the philosopher Immanuel Kant, was really brought to life by Isaiah Berlin. But what does it actually mean for us right now? And why should we even care about this one sentence?
All right, to really get it, we've got to break it down. Let's start with the first part, that core metaphor for what we are. The idea is that we aren't these perfect, uniform blocks of wood ready to be assembled. No, we're something else entirely. We're crooked timber.
So what is crooked timber? Well, imagine going to a lumber yard and instead of perfect planks, all you find are these gnarled, knotted, twisted pieces of wood. You can't draw a straight line on them, you can't make a perfect cut. The metaphor is that that's us. That's human nature. And the key thing here is that this isn't a problem that needs to be fixed, it's just what we are. And this crookedness shows up in a few key ways. We're flawed. We're pulled in a million different directions by our desires. We're incredibly complex. And yeah, often contradictory. We say we want one thing, but then we go and do the complete opposite. We're driven by emotion just as much as logic, if not more. But here's the most important part of the whole thing. We're beautifully imperfect. This isn't a criticism. It's a description of the rich, messy, and kind of wonderful reality of being human.
Okay, so that's the raw material, us, in all our crooked glory. So now let's look at the second half of this idea, because it gets at the big implication. If our fundamental building material is twisted and gnarled, what does that mean for all the things we try to build with it?
And this is the million-dollar question, right? If you're trying to build a perfectly straight, geometrically perfect structure, but all you have to work with are twisted logs, what's going to happen? I mean, really, what do you expect the result to be? The answer to that brings us to the other half of this idea.
This straight thing that we can't make? Well, that's the metaphor for our constant search for perfection. You know what I'm talking about. The grand projects of humanity. The search for the perfect political system, a flawless economic model, a utopian society where everything just works, with no friction, no mistakes, no mess. Those are the ideals we're always shooting for.
And this is where you can really see the gap between that ideal and the reality. On the left, you've got the dream of straight things, utopia, total perfection, flawless systems. But when you try to build them using us, the crooked timber, you get what's on the right. Utopia becomes a series of compromises. The pursuit of perfection has to be replaced with good enough. And those flawless systems, they turn into messy, stumbling, but real progress. We don't get absolute order. What we get is complexity.
So you might be thinking, okay, great, so what are we supposed to do, just give up? And the answer is absolutely not. Far from it. This is where this whole idea becomes incredibly practical and, honestly, super useful. See, this isn't a message of despair. It might sound like one at first, but it's actually incredibly liberating. It frees us from this tyranny of trying to be perfect. It tells us that our constant failure to create a perfect utopia isn't because we're not trying hard enough. It's because we're misunderstanding the materials we're working with, ourselves. It's a powerful argument for just being a little more realistic and a little more humble in what we're trying to achieve.
And this way of thinking points us toward a much more practical path. First, just acknowledge human imperfection. Let's design things for real, messy humans, not some idealized, perfectly rational version of us. Second, maybe we abandon the dangerous pursuit of a perfect utopia, which, let's be honest, has historically led to some pretty terrible places. And third, what if we focused instead on building resilient, flexible systems? Things that can bend and adapt to our crookedness, instead of shattering when they meet it.
And so we land right back where we started, with this one powerful sentence. But now, it doesn't really sound like a limitation, does it? It sounds more like wise advice. It's a guide for how to build a better, more humane world that actually fits the people who are going to live in it. It's really a call to embrace our beautifully imperfect nature.
And that leaves us with one last thing to chew on. If a perfectly straight thing is just not going to happen, and we fully accept the crooked, complex, and beautiful material that is us, what's the best, most resilient, most human thing we can possibly hope to build together? Something to think about.